Look, I wore my black lipstick to the movie, but I can't wear my black lipstick for this. I think that this movie missed the point of the assignment. Hello, everybody. It's me, Amanda, and we're here to talk about The Crow 2024. Oh, I watched it in theaters, and I have some thoughts. One, I just want to know what's happening with movies, and are we okay? Because I don't think we're okay. This movie was... You know what? I'm going to hold my tongue. Before we get into all of it, I'm just going to say, spoiler warning ahead. We're going to be talking spoilers. And then we're going to talk about some of the things that I liked. We're going to talk about the things that I didn't like. Spoiler alert, it's a bit of a long list. And then we're going to talk about some of the other reviews and my thoughts on what other people are saying about this movie. Because I like reading other reviews, and I feel like sometimes I feel very seen, sometimes not so much, because guess what? The beauty of the world is that we're all different. So if you are a person that really liked The Crow, totally fine. Let me know why you liked it in the comments. If you didn't like it, let me know why you didn't like it. Let's all respect each other and have a cool discussion about this film. Where it succeeded, where it failed. So before we jump in, just a brief synopsis about what this movie is about. So The Crow is a movie that is actually based off of the comics. It's not based off of the adaptation, the film that we have with Brandon Lee. That's not what they were trying to do here. I think they knew that they couldn't touch that.
I just want him. Well, you can have him.
So they instead are just focusing just on the comics. It's an adaptation of the comics, which is basically a revenge story. Basically, Eric and his love, Shelley, they're these kids. They're pretty young. They have these dreams. They just want to be together, and their life gets cut short. In this version, they're specifically targeted, or Shelley is specifically targeted, and Eric, while being with Shelley, both of their lives get snuffed out, and then Eric is brought back to life. He basically is guided back to the world of the living. He follows a crow around, and he's trying to get revenge on the people that killed him and Shelley. And in this story, he's actually looking to redeem her soul. So her soul is being dragged down to hell, and he's trying to avenge their deaths to set things right so that she can ascend to heaven. Basically, just don't be trapped in hell. That's the goal here. Ultimately, one of the things that I really loved about this movie is that I feel like Bill Skarsgård is pretty good in it. I feel like Bill is pretty good in a lot of stuff that he's in, and I feel that I just wish he had more opportunities, because I feel like he either sometimes just doesn't get enough to do in a movie, or something like this happens where I just feel like he's stuck in a project where, I mean, what can you do here? What can you do? Not much, unfortunately. But there are moments where I feel like he is shown as understanding the assignment. I think he understands the character of Eric Draven in The Crow, and sometimes that does shine through, but sometimes not so much. And also, the amount of times that they made this guy take his shirt off is a lot. It's a lot. It's not Bill's fault that his shirt is off, but his shirt is off a lot. I think it was a choice. It was a stylistic choice. Do I understand why they do it? Kind of. Do I agree with it all the time? I don't know. Did it work? I don't know. The last 30 minutes of this movie, I would say, is pretty great, actually. I would say if you could go and watch it, if you had to go watch this movie, skip the first hour and then just watch the last 30 minutes of it, and honestly, you'll probably be like, wow, that movie was pretty great. I wonder what the other hour is like. And I'll say, no, don't go back. Don't watch the other hour. The part where the film really picks up, I would say, is the last 30 minutes of the movie. Basically, when they get to the opera house, just that whole action sequence is really good, and that's really what I wanted from this film. I mean, I think The Crow works best when it is this story of just pain and loss, and there's a lot of cool ideas that they had here where I could see how you could take that theme and manifest it in different ways, but they just never really went full with it. It's never really fully realized or actualized. I don't even know if they really knew what they were doing with the development of this movie, because it does feel like it's kind of there's a lot of different parts and then they're just not coming together very well. But something that does work and that I thought was done pretty well was I thought the gore in this movie was pretty good. I was actually surprised at how gory it was. It's 14A and I feel like it actually should be rated R with some of the stuff we see in here. There is this whole part during the opera house fight where Eric grabs the sword that he's fighting with. He gets to fight with an actual sword. It's pretty crazy. And he puts it in this guy's mouth and the guy's trying to like push it away, but he can't. And then Eric, using his own hands on the sword, like cutting himself up, basically pushes it through his mouth and through his jaw. So it's pretty brutal. I don't even know if I can say what I just said, but wow, there was just a lot of gore happening and a lot of pain, and that's kind of what I like the most out of this. The action at the end, anyways, is all very well done, I would say. It's very cool, very brutal, very like, just makes you feel uneasy in a good way. In a way that I feel like this film should make you feel uneasy. There is a brutality to it, but I still feel like the brutality isn't egregious. It's right where it needs to be. And I think that's something that could be said that is a positive for this film, because I do feel like when you have a story like this where, you know, there is this woman and she's lost and this man is going on this quest of revenge, that it can be taken really far and it can feel really almost exploitative of the violence. And although this is quite a violent film, I don't feel that it's necessarily exploiting the violence still, even though it is very brutal. It feels fitting, I guess. And I don't know if that's just because that's Bill Skarsgård's performance making me believe that this feels right, or if it has to do with just the fact that, you know, there are elements in terms of how Shelley's life ends that aren't quite as brutal as the original Crow film. But I did enjoy the brutality and I felt like it fit the tone of the movie. At least, you know, at the end. At least at the end. The cinematography at moments is also quite pleasing, I would say. Though it does sometimes make me feel like I'm trapped in YouTube music, like with music videos just on an endless loop. It is very music video-y, but there's an ethereal nature to the cinematography here that I feel like kind of works. I feel like it would have worked better if we left some things more ambiguous in this story, because a lot of the supernatural stuff just gets completely explained. We'll talk about that a little bit more in some of the things I didn't like, but I would have liked it better if there were times when we questioned what was supernatural, what was real. I think we could have played with those elements. Unfortunately, this film doesn't go that deep. I would say at least the film isn't boring, you know? I think a lot of people are expecting this. Some people were expecting this, I think, to be as bad as some of the other films we've had in this year. It's been a really strange year for film. We've gotten some really, really stinky movies. And I think some people are expecting this to be as bad as Borderlands or Madam Web. And I don't think it is that. I actually think it's interesting. I didn't really want to leave the theater at any point, but there were definitely moments where I cringed. I do like some of the music in this and some of the ways that the music is used, but then there are other times... Pay no attention to that. But then there are other times where the music feels like it's just disjointed and actually takes you out of moments. So it's a bit of a mixed bag with the music. Sometimes it's good and sometimes you're like, what's happening? And then you feel like you've been transported into a music video combined with the music and the cinematography, and it gets weird. So those are the things I did like, and some of them, like I said, are a bit of a mixed bag. So what didn't I like? Oh boy. Well, the editing here, I just don't think is very good. The way that this film is even laid out, the way that the story plays out isn't very good. I would have just made it the whole scene in the opera house where he's going up the stairs and he's just trying to get up those stairs and he's really struggling for a good while to just even ascend the stairs. I think make the whole thing him trying to just get to the top of the stairs. Make it that, and then intercut it with some of the things that are flashbacks to sort of why he's on this mission, but don't give us anything fully, because one of the things that I really didn't like about this movie is FKA Twigg's acting. There's a lot of extreme close-ups as well on her, and you know what? I just feel like as an actor, you really got to be great to have that camera this close, because otherwise anything that you're doing that feels not real is going to be very easily exposed. She wasn't very good in this. Her performance felt wooden, I would say, and I didn't connect with it emotionally. And I think it would have been better if we just kind of had her as this idea of who Shelley was and let most of Bill's acting as Eric create the image of who she is, because I just think he's a better performer and he could have carried a lot of that. She could still be in it. I mean, I think if you want to have her, she sings a little bit in it, and I thought that she did quite a good job with that, but it's not really enough to warrant her being here at the same time because she only sings a few bars. Yeah, I don't really have too much of a problem with her being here. It's just how much they used her as Shelley and like how much of it is about her backstory. Also, the story is just weird. Like, the story just doesn't make any sense. Like, when you think about it, like, I left the theater and I was thinking about what is even happening in this movie. Shelley is being hunted by Rogue, who's the villain, and he is a guy that just likes damning innocent souls. Well, he doesn't like doing it. He has to do it to remain immortal, and apparently he's lived for centuries. And I think he does it so that he can maybe do other good things in the world, but we aren't really shown like a lot of the other good things that he's done. Seems like he might be like a wealthy benefactor to like some people from the arts. For some reason, he loves women that play piano. There's an implication that he basically targets pianists to use them as scapegoats to, I guess, make them kill people by whispering in their ear and making them do terrible things to other people, to themselves. Yeah, like, what is happening with this movie? Like, what even did I just say? Does that make any sense? So Shelley is being hunted because she is one of the people that was manipulated, and there's a video that she has that was sent to her of what happened and shows that he whispered in her ear and then she did this thing. Shows his control over her. I don't know if that would be admissible in court. I don't know if they're going to believe the supernatural angle. I don't know why she was made to kill someone or what that was about. I don't really understand Rogue's motivation here other than I guess he just wants to live. Everything feels very ambiguous in a way where you're just like, when you think about it, you're like, yeah, but why is any of this happening? And why kind of do I care? Why do I care about these characters at times? The other thing is that the love story here is just bizarre. So Eric and Shelley in this version of the story meet up in essentially like a mental hospital. They're clearly delinquents who are put in here to work on their issues. Eric's whole thing is that he's just messed up. He had a really messed up childhood, and he is just the saddest boy who only gets sadder as the result of this story and losing the one thing in his life that maybe I guess was kind of good. But even then, there's never any hope. That's the thing that I think is really weird about this movie. Like, at no point do I actually feel like, oh, we're moving towards something good and it was lost. Because these two characters just kind of stumble into each other, and then for some reason they're just madly in love. They're madly in love. I don't know why. They bond over the fact that they both have tattoos. They're both in in this facility being held there against their will. They're both kind of crazy. And so I guess that's the whole thing. Like, they just, I don't know. What are their common interests? It's never established in the film. Tattoos. Tattoos are their common interests. I gotta be honest, as someone that has tattoos, I don't necessarily meet someone with tattoos and just go, that's it. That's the person for me. We both have tattoos. So the whole story is pretty bizarre and could use some work, let's just say. It also tries more to be a love story than a revenge story, I'd say. It tries to make the whole center of the thing like it's about love, but I don't think that's really what The Crow is about. Now, granted, I haven't read all of the comic. I've only just dipped in a little bit just to read some of it to get a sense for what it was like when I was talking about this movie when the trailer came out, and I just kind of wanted to do a response video because I felt like people were being too harsh on the trailer. Having seen the film, I still think people were being too harsh based even on seeing the film, but I don't think this film understands what The Crow is based on what I've read of it. And I feel like it's really a story about loss and pain and suffering and how that shapes and controls us and is something that kind of haunts us for a lot of our lives. Instead, this is a movie that I think is supposed to be about love, and not to say that Eric doesn't love Shelley in the comics. It's more just like, it's about the loss of Shelley. It's not necessarily about the love. The loss overtakes the love. And I mean, the whole thing is written, I believe, because James O'Barr lost his love to a drunk driver, and so that's what motivated it. So it's really comes from a place of this immense grief. And I just feel that the film doesn't embody that really at all. There are elements of grief that I see through Bill Skarsgård's performance, but I don't think we ever really get the full feeling of it. And it also has to do with the fact that I think FKA Twigs and Bill Skarsgård together are just not enough to give us that sensation. I also don't know about the supernatural elements of Rogue. I wasn't a big fan of that. I don't even think we needed that. Then we also get the exposition man who, after Eric dies and comes back, we find him. And what was his name? I think his name was Kronos or something like that. Was that his name? Yeah, Kronos. I think the actor that plays Kronos is very good, actually, but this role doesn't even need to exist. He's just a guy that explains what the crow does, and later they try to kind of tie him into everything. There's like a reason that he's there, but he really just serves the purpose of exposition, man, and I don't think we needed that. I'd rather see Eric discover his powers and have to figure out what's happening to him. I think that would be way more compelling. So there's that. I also feel like some of the CG in this is not very good, so that's another problem. They didn't really make Eric enough of a weirdo either. I feel like in the comics he's much more of a weirdo, and even in the original film he's this very odd character. He speaks in ways that most people don't, and we really only get to see that at the end of the film, and even then we only get a hint of that. So I'd love if they just basically let Bill Skarsgård off his leash. If they just let him do his thing, let him go full crazy, and we see just how twisted, how the pain has reshaped this person.
Jesus Christ walks into a hotel. Ow.
I think it was interesting because at one point when they're going up the stairs, there is an inclination of, the whole time Eric's, when he gets messed up and then he heals, he really feels the pain. And at that point, it's like he's almost risen above the physical pain. Like he's in so much pain emotionally that nothing can touch him because his whole life is pain. It gets there at the end, but I think that should be the whole thing of the movie. The whole thing of the movie is that it's like the pain of loss. There's a cool thing they could have done there with all the physical elements and the gore, but it just, like I said, it's just never fully realized. It makes it more disappointing to me because I can see where it could be good, and then we just never did that. I feel like the other thing that was weird about the story, just to tie up this whole thing, we started with the story, we're ending with the story, is Rogue's henchman, and henchwoman, who cannot do anything right, and yet, for some reason, he keeps using them. And I'm like, I feel like it also ruins Rogue's character, because I feel like he should be, like, getting rid of these people, or killing them, something, because they can't get anything right. They're like, yeah, we think he's dead. Oh, wait, he's not dead. Oh, we went back and we killed him, but oh, just kidding, we didn't kill him. Oh yeah, we went and we killed both of them. Oh, but we didn't get the phone that has the evidence on it. Oh boy, oh, sorry about that. Whoops. It's just failure after failure here. Get some new henchmen. So, what did everyone else have to say about this movie? Well, most people, critics, not liking it. However, should be noted that at the time of this recording, it is 65% on Rotten Tomatoes, which makes it apparently the second Crow movie in all of the films that have been made regarding the Crow. There are many in the positive. At least for something. That's for the audience score, though. That's not for the critic score. For the critic score, I think it's at like 18%. But for the audience score, it's sitting at 65. The highest reviewed, both critically and from audience score, is still the first film. Nothing has beaten that. Because everyone loved that film. It's a cult classic. There's many elements that I think make that film work. And this movie is missing a lot of them. Mainly the heart of the film, which is, I think, what makes the original Crow so amazing. This just doesn't have a heart. It has elements of style that don't come together, that feel disjointed, and ultimately it feels like it doesn't really say anything. The New York Times accused The Crow of being all costume and no heart, and I would mostly agree with this, but I would say it, like I said, it does feel like Bill Skarsgård could have been the heart of the movie. I feel like he understood the assignment. I think especially in that, like I said, that last 30 minutes, we really see it shine through there in his performance, but unfortunately, it's just not enough. The Hollywood Reporter article, I'm going to link it. I'm going to link all these articles, but the Hollywood Reporter article, you guys have to read because it is just hilarious and very accurate to what's going on in this movie. It just basically gives you a detailed synopsis and throughout gives you some comments on what was being seen and why it didn't work. And it is pretty spot on throughout, I would say. It's my favorite one that I've read, my favorite review, and yeah, good job, Hollywood Reporter. Very entertaining and I would say very accurate. The AV Club also pretty much hit the mark. Like, a lot of these reviews kind of had a similar thing to say, which is there's some cool elements here, but nothing unifies them, and ultimately this film is failing because it doesn't understand the thesis of the work, and it just doesn't have enough there in terms of what it's trying to say or be about. It feels like there's a lot of different departments running in different directions, and no one was able to really unify and come together to say, like, what are we really doing here? It doesn't feel like the focus is on making a good movie, ultimately. I think that's a big problem that we're seeing with the film industry in general, is people are here to figure out what will make us money, not what will be a good story and be a good movie. And it makes me sad, because I remember going to see films. Not all films were great, but even when a film wasn't about making a great film, it was about making an entertaining film. And even now, I think it's less about making something entertaining. It's still just about making things that make money. Granted, this might make money because at least it was a lower budget film, but it's not about making money. If you make something good, it will make money. That's the thing. Make a good movie and money will just happen. If you try to grab at money too much, it's going to slip through your fingers, I think, in life. So anyways, that's kind of where I'm at with this one. I'm going to stick with the rating that I gave it before. I'll give it 2 out of 5. 2 out of 5. It does do some stuff that's interesting. Nothing really fully comes together, but there's some like elements here that are kind of interesting, and at least it's entertaining. And there are parts of it that I actually enjoyed. You know, like I said, the sequence on the stairs, I really did enjoy that. That was actually very entertaining, very interesting. And it actually felt like it was trying to do something and maybe even say something. Goodness, imagine saying something in a film. All right, well, that's it for this one, friends. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Let me know if you think I should also just maybe go back and talk about the Crow comic, because you know what? Not enough people talk about that comic, I think, today, and it seems like a really good story. I think I want to go back and finish it. So if you guys want to hear more about it as I'm reading it, let me know, and maybe I'll do a video on that. Or maybe we should just revisit the original. I will say this did make me want to watch that, because that's actually really good. So, yeah. All right, I'll see you next time. Until then, stay nerdy.